Hi, it's Lucy, and today I'll be reading all the nominees for the memoir category of the Goodreads Choice Awards in 2024. By the time you see this video, the Goodreads Choice Awards will be over. You'll know who won, but I don't know who won, and I will be trying to guess in this video. Without further ado, I'm going to take you to Lucy in the past, who has a nice little spreadsheet. Welcome to my screen. I just went through memoirs that I knew about, memoirs that I was able to find, and put them all on this list. These are kind of my predictions. These are also kind of all the memoirs I could find. I really haven't been keeping up with new releases. They are ordered right now in order of number of ratings from highest to lowest. The memoir with the most ratings that I could find was Sociopath, a memoir by Patric, Gagne. The second highest is The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop, who played Emily Gilmore on Gilmore Girls, a hit TV show that everybody loves, including me. With 21,000 ratings, sorry, I didn't say Sociopath got 39,000. You guys can see. Most memoirs that I found are above a 4-star, which is pretty good on Goodreads. I remember hearing buzz around Sociopath, so I'm pretty confident that's going to be a nominee. Here's what I'm confident is going to be a nominee. Sociopath, The Third Gilmore Girl, House of Hidden Meetings. Those three, I'm very, very confident. Knife, Meditations After an Attempted Murder. This is about someone who had an attempted murder committed against them. They were injured by an attempted murder, basically. Someone tried to kill them. Oh my gosh, I don't know why that was very hard for me to say. I had not heard about this until I did the search, so I'm not super confident on it. This memoir by Garten, I'm also pretty confident will be on the list. Rebel Wilson released her memoir this year. I think this will be on the list. See, the thing about memoirs, it's either it's a celebrity memoir or it's an interesting memoir. Not that celebrity memoirs can't be interesting, but usually the thing that makes an author write a memoir is there has to be like some kind of catch. And for a person you maybe haven't heard of, the catch is that something interesting happened to them. And for a celebrity memoir, the interesting thing is them. Most of the ones that I'm predicting are just that they are celebrities. And also that's why I've heard of them. Whoopi Goldberg also released a memoir. This is not her first one, which is why I'm not fully convinced it's going to be on the list. A Well-Trained Wife, I've never heard of. I don't think I've heard of this before. Sorry for the inconvenience. This author is a well-known romance/YA author. I don't know if well-known is the right word, but like she's released other books that I have seen around. And then Hillary Clinton also released another memoir this year. This one has like no ratings, but it also came out in September, but it could be just because it is Hillary Clinton. Stanley Tucci's first memoir did apparently really, really well. This is his second one. They're both about food. This one's about food. I'm actually the most interested in this one, so I want it to be on the list. And Lovely One by Ketanji Brown Jackson. She's a Supreme Court justice, one of the 3 liberal justices. We'll see what happens with the rest of the Supreme Court. This one is also not super popular, but it is once again like kind of celebrity memoir in that most people know her name. But I don't know if anyone's interested enough in reading her book. And then we have a couple of others. Okay, I added emojis to all my predictions. Whiskey Tender, I know is about an indigenous person. I don't know enough of the details. And then Sunny Boy is by Al Pacino, who is kind of famous, so I'm gonna add him. This one I just added because I feel like Don Lemon is pretty famous. I once was lost my search for God in America. Like, he was on CNN, he is like a known talking head, but it only has 82 reviews. I didn't put the date it was released, but it was long enough ago that it should be more than 82 reviews, I think. And then these last two would be on the list. I don't know when Goodreads cutoff date is. Today is the 12th when they released the nominees. These both come out, I think, next week. So we have Cher is releasing a multi-part memoir. The first part comes out this month. And then Keough Palmer has also released a memoir, or will also be releasing a memoir, also comes out this month. It will be out by the time you see this video. The only reason I don't know if these two will be on the list is just because they're not out. So nobody's had a chance to read them, but they have put books that are not out as nominees on the Goodreads Choice Awards. So we'll see. So I've selected 8. There's supposed to be 20, I think, and then get narrowed down to 10. We'll see what happens. So we'll be moving on to the Goodreads website. Very exciting. Goodreads Choice Awards 2024. Okay, so on the first part of the list, I see 2 that I guessed right away. What is this? There's Always This Year. Oh, I did see this in my research. I just didn't add it because I wasn't sure about it. This one I also did see. I wasn't sure about it. This one I should have thought of. I forgot that it came out. So Loud by Afualo. She is a well-known TikToker. She has a podcast now and she's like known for like verbally beating up men who are dumb. Liz Cheney, I didn't know she released a book, which was released in 2023. Since they do have the cutoff in the middle of November, they add books from the end of the year last year into this. So this probably came out the end of November last year. So that's my bad. I didn't check any books for that. We have Ina Garten's book, which I guessed. Sociopath, which I also guessed. Currently reading that. We'll get to that. Knife, which I didn't quite guess, but it was on my potential nominee list. Bits and Pieces by Whoopi Goldberg. And A Well-Trained Wife, which I wasn't sure about, but I did have on my nominees list. I guess 7 out of 20. Could be worse. I'm not going to read all of these. I just don't have the time. I don't know when voting ends. Hold on. Let's look that up. It ends in 10 days. The goal here is to try and guess what will be in the final round. And then the final round, according to last year's frequently asked questions, was 5 days. So the goal will be to try and guess what will be in the final round. I'm gonna do some organization and then we'll be back. I realized that I said I'll be right back and then I never came back. So for you, looks like no time has passed. Obviously I'm wearing a different outfit, but I did want to show you how I organize the spreadsheet so I can decide what to read. I think I am going to be skipping Oath and Honor by Liz Cheney. I don't want to read it, okay? The election just happened. We all know how it ended. Dislike, to put it mildly. I'm hoping it doesn't win because I don't want to read it. The things going against me for reading it are that it has the second most number of ratings and it does have, I believe, hold on, it has the second highest rating. So it could win, or a lot of people feel like me, especially about the election, and maybe they don't vote for it. I don't know. Back to number of ratings. I'm not quite reading everything in order. You'll just see what I end up finishing as it goes. Like, that's how I'll film the clips. This should probably be my cutoff because I have a feeling that top 10 are gonna be the top 10 by rating. Whoever wins will be shoveled around. I am including bits and pieces mostly because I have it. I have an advanced listening copy from Libro.fm. If you're interested in Libro.fm, that will be linked down below. And I really want to read it. And I might kick out the Friday Afternoon Club, even though that also has a pretty high rating. Although Bits and Pieces does have a higher rating than it. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to be trying to go through the top 10 by rating. I think that's probably going to get me the closest to whatever wins. There's just simply no way I'm going to read 20 books in this time. You'll see my opinions as we go. I'm here to talk about The House of Hidden Meanings by RuPaul. I am about halfway through now, so it feels like a good time to introduce it. This is just his memoir where he talks about how he got to where he is from his childhood throughout his adulthood, becoming a drag queen, what his experience has been like. And halfway through where I'm at right now, he is in Atlanta, and I think he's like considering moving to New York basically. Obviously, since this is a memoir, we kind of like already know how his life plays out. I will say up top here before I give any real thoughts about the book, I am not into drag. I'm not into RuPaul's Drag Race, which is where his like fame comes. I don't know that much about it, so take everything I say with that lens. But I will say halfway through the book, I am reasonably enjoying it. In memoirs, and you'll probably see this as we go forward in the video, I tend to like when they talk about their childhood years, just because that's like when people's ideas about the world are shaped and formed. So I find that to be the most fascinating part of these types of books. And this wasn't an exception. He does gloss over a little bit. Like, we don't really hear too much about like his early childhood. It's mostly when he's a teenager. And from his early childhood, mostly what we get are things about his parents, who are very flawed human beings. I think it is interesting how he frames each of them, because obviously they both have their faults, and he talks about his mother's fault. By today's standards, like, you would say she was at the very least neglectful, but you can still tell that he does have like love for his mother, while at least where I'm in the book, you don't really see that for his father, which makes sense in the context of everything. He talks about how his dad basically left their family, moved out, didn't pay child support, and his mom, even if she wasn't as present or nice, honestly, as she could have been, or maybe should have been, probably what we expect from parents. Yeah, I found that interesting because you see a lot in stories nowadays that so many people will blame the parent that is somewhat present, and RuPaul, I don't feel like, falls into that trope. Some of his lessons or things he shares are interesting to me, but nothing's super jumping out of me. I do notice like some ways he describes people has me questioning, but I'm not sure how to put that in perspective yet, I guess. I am back to report that I have finished The House of Hidden Meanings by RuPaul. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. It was fine. Nothing terrible to report, nothing amazing to report. The book was fine, which makes this hard to review. I gave it an extra half star because I thought the writing was good and he did have some lush prose in there, although some of it did feel forced. But yeah, I didn't have a problem with the writing, so that usually gets it bumped up. The parts that were more disappointing to me was that the book did end up focusing more on his come up than his like actual career that we know him for. He becomes a drag queen that we know today towards the end of the book, and then it's kind of like one scene, he's like, I've decided to like take this step to like transform myself more. He talks about like shaving his beard and like his hair and stuff and like putting on a more feminine style to become a drag queen. And then we kind of skip forward to where he's on a private jet like chartered by Elton John. So there isn't a whole lot of the in-between stage. We see like his rock bottom, but we never really see his top or height, I guess. I mean, he might still be at the height of his career. I don't know. He's like in his 60s now, I think. Anyway, a lot of the book felt like kind of this where we skip forward. Like it just felt like a distancing technique basically to remove the reader and also RuPaul from anything that was going on. So I don't love that in a memoir. I did like the chapter about his mom's passing, and then he does a kind of detour, or not a detour, but he talks about his partner slash now husband, I believe, dealing with drug addiction, and also RuPaul's like own coming to terms with drug addiction. So I thought that was interesting. And those were the most honest parts of the book. Like you could tell that RuPaul's feelings went into those chapters. But the rest of the book was just fine for me. I don't really think this is gonna win the Goodreads Choice Award. Even though it is popular, it's not the most popular, and also it doesn't have the best rating among the nominees. It has, I think, 3.81 when I did the spreadsheet, which is lower. So, maybe I'll rank them as I go. I'll make like a little ranking. So that'll be fun. I don't think it's gonna be at the bottom, but this is not gonna be the top. So I'm 15% of the way through Sociopath by Patric Gagne. I am struggling a little bit reading, mostly because, I should tell you what it's about first. Okay, so this is Patric's memoir, growing up, feeling different from everyone else, and then apparently when she's in college, she figures out fully that she's a sociopath. I don't know if she gets diagnosed, I'm not that far yet. Also, side note, sociopath is not an actual mental health diagnosis. Antisocial personality disorder is a diagnosable personality disorder, but sociopath is not a clinical term. So as you can tell, I have been doing some research. Not enough. I think I'm gonna wait till after, so it hopefully doesn't color my reading of this book as much. But basically, so far where I'm at, we're just in the middle of her childhood, detailing instances of her childhood where she felt different, felt like she wasn't feeling how she was supposed to. She talks a lot about stealing as a kid because she needed to feel something, and it like healed something inside her or made her feel better about herself somehow. And these are all obviously building to her being a sociopath. My struggle slash opinion so far is that I'm finding it hard to get through because I'm just pretty skeptical of this. I'm not a mental health professional. That's a disclaimer. I have read some reviews and other like articles, not too many, because once again, I'm trying not to color my reading so much until at least after, of other people who are skeptical, who are professionals. And as I'm reading, I'm just finding it hard to believe her. Not that the events happened or even how she says they happened, but just her describing them as a way to show proof that she is a sociopath, I guess, is a real struggle for me, because she shows so many scenes of like empathy and caring, which are like the two hallmarks of antisocial personality disorder, like not caring, not being able to display empathy or like feel empathy. And she keeps showing instances of her doing that. She describes them in a way that makes it seem like she doesn't have, but it's like pretty obvious. Other people have suggested that these are also like symptoms of other ways of being neurodivergent. And I tend to see that because that is like another thing about mental health diagnoses, is that they're all on a spectrum. In some lenses can be viewed as symptomatic of one disorder, and in other lenses can be viewed as symptomatic of another, especially since she grows up thinking that she is a sociopath. That could probably have an effect on how she is acting around other people and everything. One of the things about antisocial personality disorder is that people with it rarely care. And she cares so much that she might have this. So it could be that she's a rare instance. There's a lot. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around because I'm so skeptical, basically. The writing currently so far is fine. Like I said before, I like the childhood stories in general for most memoirs, unless they're really bad somehow. If this was just a regular memoir without her framing it as a sociopath, it would be fine. But because of that framing, I'm just struggling a little bit. Yeah, so I'm DNFing this book, at least for now. All the problems that I said earlier are still there, and I can't get through it. I have a lot of other books to read. I don't want to read it. Every time I pick it up, I dread it because I feel like it's just ridiculous. Everything she says, I don't believe her, and maybe that does have something to do with her being a sociopath. I don't know. I'm just not enjoying it. I don't want to continue reading it. There's just some like scenes in here that I'm just like, there's no way that happened. That didn't happen. The scene where she tells her dad that she thinks she's a sociopath. Her dad acts like kind of like it's normal. Like he barely has a reaction, and it's just so odd. He like pushes back a little bit, but not nearly as much as you would expect. Someone who finds out that their daughter has been sneaking into their neighbors' houses every morning and is telling you that they're a sociopath. Like that requires a little more digging in, a little more of a reaction, in my opinion. So that was kind of the final straw for me. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if she's a sociopath or not. I have some doubts, but like maybe that's part of her being a sociopath. That doesn't mean I have to like the book. That doesn't mean I have to finish it. I'm here to chat about Bits and Pieces, My Mother, My Brother, and Me by Whoopi Goldberg. Spoiler alert, I really enjoyed this. I think I might give it 4.5 stars. I'm really unsure. It's either 4 or 4.5. I will say I recommend listening to the audiobook. I don't know if I would have liked it as much reading the physical book, just putting it out there, just because she speaks in such a casual, candid manner. It really does feel like she's just telling you these stories like while you're in her kitchen or something, or like you're in a very intimate stage. And some of the like writing and wording, I'm not sure how it would come off actually reading, and I do think she does ad-lib some of that audiobook, or at least she makes it sound like she does. But since I did listen to the audiobook, I loved it. This is Whoopi Goldberg kind of not really retelling her mom's life story, but kind of just talking about her mom and what she does know about her. Because like a prominent theme in this book is that her mom didn't love to share a lot of things with her or with anyone. Like they're just basically some things that her mom felt like kids shouldn't know, like this is grown folks' business, even when she was grown folk. There's like some missing pieces that Whoopi herself is also missing. So it doesn't feel like she's holding out on us or anything like that. But the stories she does tell are really wonderful. You can really feel the love Whoopi has for her family, especially her mom in the majority of the book. Some of the stories she tells about her childhood, growing up in the projects in Harlem, some really poignant parts to me were like when she was talking about Christmas with her family, how her mom always made it so magical, how her and her brother would be like, how did you get all these decorations up? And her mom would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. They're like, where could you be keeping this? Her mom is like, where do you think I keep them? So it's just like keeping everything a surprise. They're all in wonder, like getting up at 3 a.m. to see all their presents under the tree and being like, where could our mom have hidden all these things? I don't know. I love the magic. It is getting close to the holiday season, so I definitely am feeling it in my spirit, I guess. But I love those, like just all the stories of the magic that her mom created for her and her brother when she was younger really got to me, I guess. There's other stories from when Whoopi is older, you know, starting her acting career. She talks about when she was in The Color Purple, all the like avenues that opened up for her, but also like the avenues that opened up for her mom. It feels like Whoopi really loved her family and her family really loved her, if that makes sense, which hopefully is most people's family, but it's not always. So it was just really nice to read about that in comparison, I guess, to another celebrity memoir, since we're here and we're doing all the memoirs. I didn't feel as distant as I did with RuPaul's memoir. Partially, I think the language, it is just so casual, like it feels like Whoopi is talking to a friend. That helps bring you in closer and make you understand her. It really just didn't feel like Whoopi was hiding anything. Like she wasn't carefully curating anything. Like this was just all spur of the moment a little bit, which is kind of a nice feeling to have from this audiobook in particular. Issues that I had, I didn't have really many issues. Like I said, I really love the storytelling. I really love the story she told. Also, in comparison to RuPaul's memoir, she does mention a lot more of her like adult career and like after quote unquote making it, some of the stuff she does and people she meets. So I enjoyed that part because it is nice to hear about like fame and stuff. I don't know, we're reading a celebrity memoir. We want to hear about like the famous part. It feels like she appreciates where she's gotten to be, and part of that is because of her mom. But back to stuff that I didn't love as much. This is called My Mother, My Brother, and Me, and I felt like her brother was kind of an afterthought. Maybe she just had less stories to tell. Maybe she just wasn't ready to tell them. I don't know, but I did wish there was more of that. And I also do wish Technically, this is a memoir told through the lens, really, of her mom and to a lesser extent her brother, but I really would have liked to hear more about like Whoopi Goldberg's daughter. But yeah, back to the raising of her daughter, she does mention that like her mom did like a lot of it kind of because Whoopi was working so much, and I just would have liked to hear like more perspective on that. So those are my thoughts on Whoopi Goldberg's memoir. This is definitely number 1 in the ranking. Knife: Meditations After an Attempted Murder by Salman Rushdie. This is Salman Rushdie's memoir, specifically about surviving an attempted murder knife attack while he was about to give a speech, ironically about the importance of keeping writers safe. This is just his reflection of the time after that, what happened, his recollection of the event. I really like this. I think I like this because of all the lore attached as well. I didn't do an intro clip on this, but if I had, I would have talked about doing a little bit of research once I figured out. I didn't really think he was anybody, and apparently he is somebody, I guess, is the thing. So I don't know if I'm an uncultured swine, maybe I am. But basically, Salman Rushdie is the author of many books, but specifically one book called The Satanic Verses, which caused a very huge controversy, I guess, in specifically the Islamic world, which ultimately led to, in 1989, the supreme leader of Iran issuing a fatwa that called for his murder and everyone basically involved with that book because of its connection to Islam, and they're perceiving it as blasphemy, which adds a lot more color, I guess, to the story. So this book ends up being also a reflection on kind of like him not running out of time, but this thing that he kind of has been preparing for his whole life finally happening, like him being attacked, someone trying to kill him. When I was doing some more reading about this, a lot of his translators were attacked and one of them was killed. So part of this book, Knife, was like him being like, it finally happened to me, and kind of reflecting on that and what is going to happen with his life moving forward. So I found that really interesting. He gives like a pretty good amount of details of the attack from like what people have told him and what he does remember, and being in the hospital. This is kind of like a little bit of a journal in that sense. The writing style is very literary. He is a literary fiction author, and you can tell while reading this, I kind of like that writing style, especially for this. I read a review that was like a literary fiction true crime novel, and that I think is a good explanation. I did listen to both the audiobook and read the physical book. I think both experiences were good, so I don't recommend one over the other. The audiobook is read by him, so if that interests you, you could always go with that, but I didn't feel like I lost anything with the parts that I read as an ebook. The things that stood out were his love for his wife. He talks a lot about how this affected her and how he felt knowing that she was affected and all the ways that it affected her and their relationship and how they ultimately came out stronger. And so I thought that was really beautiful. I did read some other reviews, and one thing that I will push back on that I read a lot in reviews is people thought that he seemed like pretty self-important because he name drops like a lot of other authors and people. And I don't know him. I didn't know anything about him before. Like, I don't think he's lying about knowing these people. So like maybe it does come off like a little braggy, but maybe it's just like these are the people in his circle that he knows. So I don't know like where that comes from. And I think it's kind of rich to be like, to read somebody's memoir, which is like the whole purpose is to be about them, and then to be like, they're too self-important to be writing this. Like, I mean, you did sign up for this, no? Like, I think that's a silly criticism of a memoir. Things I didn't like, it is kind of dry at points, like the medical stuff. I found that kind of interesting, but I could see how it could be dry. And like also the literary writing style, it does require some circles to get to his point, but I thought the circles were nice. And there's a chapter where he kind of like conducts a fake interview, and that's kind of where the journal entry part comes, but I think it really gives insight into his mind. So I didn't mind that. I liked it. I think I'm gonna give this, I don't know what I'm gonna give this. I feel like I should give it 4.5 stars. I feel like it's really hard to compare these books, so I don't know where I'm gonna put it in the ranking, because it feels maybe weird to put Whoopi Goldberg's book above this, but they're just like really different. So it's hard to compare. Like, maybe I'll just have them side by side right now. I definitely like these both the best so far. Hi everybody, I'm back to talk about The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop. So this one I really enjoyed. I think I'm going to give this 4 stars. This I feel like is a quintessential celebrity memoir in that it kind of just gives us all the juice, I feel like, that you expect from a celebrity memoir, where Kelly Bishop, who you most likely know from Gilmore Girls, she is, as the title suggests, the third Gilmore Girl. She plays Emily Gilmore, who is the mother of Lorelai Gilmore and the grandmother of Rory Gilmore. She's the mother part of a tenuous mother-daughter relationship. I was saying this was a quintessential celebrity memoir in that she goes from the beginning of her life to the end of her life, giving tidbits and information about her upbringing and how she worked through her career to become someone who writes a memoir, basically. So the things that I learned is that before she was Kelly Bishop, she was actually Carol Bishop. She actually changed her name when she was about to join SAG, but there was already a woman named Carol Bishop, which is her born name, her birth name. Oh my gosh. So she just changed her name to Kelly because she didn't want to deal with having people confuse them and the awards and stuff. And I think that kind of exemplifies the kind of woman she proves herself to be throughout this book. She talks about her upbringing with her family and her father, who was abusive basically, and how her mother worked to leave him, and how she falls in love with dance, which was her original career. If you don't know, in a former life, I was a dancer, obviously not to the caliber of Kelly Bishop or anyone who would write a memoir, but I always love hearing descriptions of dance, and her descriptions were no exception. I really like hearing how she fell in love with dance, her experience with dance, and her career as a working dancer. She was in the original cast of A Chorus Line, which I had no idea about. Maybe other people who care more about Broadway might know, not I, but I thought that was really cool. She talks about how A Chorus Line was written and being part of that cast, this being her big break basically. She won an award for it. She talks about that and all that stuff. And then she also gives the juice. Like I said, she talks about her relationship with men and her family. I guess the juicy bits are men, her boyfriends throughout the years, her relationship with her late husband. So I also found that fascinating. And then the part with Gilmore Girls, which I think some people might be disappointed by, but I tend to agree with. This was a smaller part of her life. She does talk about it. I think she spends 2 chapters on it, which isn't nothing, but it's she's 80 years old and she was on Gilmore Girls as an older person. I think she was in her 60s. So this was the latter 2 chapters of her life. So I think it makes sense how she discusses it. And I really liked hearing her break into the Broadway industry, the dancing industry, and the TV industry, especially as an older woman, because she essentially dances until she's in her 30s, which is really late for a dancer. So she's trying to figure out how she can still be in entertainment, and TV was the next logical step. I really liked learning about her, career path and the moves that she was making to continue to support herself. She talks about the older feminist movement. She has a whole chapter on, maybe slight spoiler, she talks about the abortion that she had, which I thought was a really good thing to include, especially now. Overall, I really enjoyed this.
This is editing Lucy on my laptop camera with bad quality to share with you all the actual finalist list. I know I talked about guessing what the finalists would be, and then I never confirmed it. So here I am to confirm it. These are the rest of the books that I'm going to be reading. You already know because there's timestamps and everything, but I realized I should have confirmed it within the video. In the timeline of this video, the finalists came out after I read The Third Gilmore Girl. That's how I knew what to read after that. Before that, I just had some really good lucky guesses.
A Well-Trained Wife, My Escape from Christian Patriarchy by Tia Levings. So this is one that's not a celebrity memoir. This follows a woman who ends up in a highly abusive marriage, and part of that marriage has to do with her upbringing in a Christian, maybe evangelical church. I'm honestly not 100% sure, but that type of church where Christian patriarchy rules all. You have to submit, listen to your husband, all that. And so she marries a man like that who is, like I said, highly abusive, and it's about her life through that and basically all the torment she went through and then her escaping from that. I have a really hard time trying to review this. It is obviously so personal, and honestly it was really, really sad. It is so personal. All memoirs are, but this one especially, because she is talking about being tormented by a man. Because of that, it pulled on my heartstrings, very much so. This was probably the saddest book I read. Obviously, a lot of the other books I read for this video deal with grief, have sadness to them. Knife is literally about a man who is almost assassinated. But I felt that they all had some kind of like levity or like something else about them that didn't really drag you fully down, or maybe I just wasn't in it as much, I don't know. But this one, I felt in it probably because of one specific instance, and then after that it just was all downhill in terms of like the abuse and everything that was going on. And that was really hard to shake as a reading experience. As like just a book and the construction, it was fine. Nothing super stood out to me. In the beginning, I had a hard time actually connecting. Like, it's not that I didn't believe her, I just didn't fully understand. I don't want to victim blame the author in any way. I just didn't fully understand how she fell into it, which is like a pretty common abuse story. Like, other people don't know why did she stay? Why did she leave? And I'm not questioning why she stayed. I'm questioning more how she got into it. She talks about being raised in this church, but the thing that confused me the most is that her dad didn't seem like super into it. And in the church that she was in, like the patriarch is like the end all be all. And her parents were definitely Christian, but not in the necessarily same way as a church. Like, all the lessons she learned, she did not get from her parents. She got from like going to Sunday school or whatever they call it, basically. So I just had a hard time with that. Like, her dad, before she married the man that she married, her dad gave her an out. That part confused me. And not in a victim blaming way, but it just made it harder to read for me, I guess. I think this author is more prominent because I believe she was in one of the Duggar documentaries, or like about the religion that the Duggars are in, the church that they're in. So that is like how she came to prominence, I think. So she does end up talking a little bit about that towards the end, and like the worries for the future based on the government. In this book, she talks about 2016, and she also talks about not being able to vote because of her husband and things like that. So if you are interested in any of those things, I would recommend it. I would put a heavy trigger warning on this book. You can skip ahead if you don't want the spoiler or whatever, but there's a trigger warning for infant death, and that really got me. Like, I feel like that would get a lot of people, so I just want to put a warning out there because I think that's what like tipped me over into like, I don't know if I can finish this. And I probably, if I wasn't doing this challenge, I probably wouldn't have finished it after this book, being completely honest. I'm back to discuss Loud, Accept Nothing Less Than the Life You Deserve by Drew Afualo. So this is Drew Afualo's memoir. Drew, you might know, / the reason for this memoir book deal, is a TikToker. She is most well known for her like comedy videos, I guess, basically laughing at men being misogynistic online. If somebody makes a video where they're being basically an a-hole, she will tweet it, stitch it, either responding or like laughing and like pointing out that the person is being misogynistic, harmful, bigoted, whatever. That is how she has made her career online. Lots of people like her. I personally am not a huge fan of her for no reason. It's not my style of video, which is fine. I don't think anything is particularly wrong with her. I don't have like a strong opinion, and that's kind of how I feel about this book. It definitely wasn't like the worst book I've ever read. I didn't have like a terrible time getting through it. I did listen partially to the audiobook for this and partially ebook, whichever one you read. If you like her TikToks, probably listen to the audiobook since she reads it herself, but if you don't care, maybe don't. So she is basically my age, so this was kind of hard, not hard for me to read, but it is hard for me to like see the benefit of her having a memoir. I do think that like someone younger than me might benefit from the things she has to say. She basically spends a whole book telling you what the subtitle is: don't accept less than you deserve. And here's how I felt growing up with like, you know, patriarchy hanging over my head. She felt weird because she's a taller woman. She's not white, and growing up around white skinny girls made her feel a type of way, which is understandable. And like encouraging young girls who were similar to her or even not similar to her to like not let that affect them as much as it may have affected her, or any of us, honestly, because, you know, like I said, we are the same age. I didn't grow up in the same place she is. We don't have the same culture background, but that is a common experience for girls, especially not white girls, the things she describes. So that was like somewhat relatable to me. And then she kind of like talks about her content and stuff, which once again, it's not to my taste, but there was nothing wrong with it. It's just part of the issue with her being so young. It just felt like she just hasn't lived enough life. And like I said, there was nothing wrong with the book. It just was kind of boring and like a lot of feminism 101 type of stuff, which is why I said it would be good for younger people. Probably the majority of people in Drew's audience, honestly. The only like issues I had personally, I didn't love how much, like this is a personal problem. It's not like an issue with how the book was written or anything. I didn't love how much she talked about her boyfriend, now fiance. I don't know if I don't remember if she called him her fiance in the book or not. It felt weird because we're still so young and like you never know with stuff like that, especially a book like that. I'm not saying anything against her boyfriend. Like, I don't know him at all. I just would have preferred a memoir about a young adult woman to have less focus on her male partner. In my head, he really should have been more of a passing mention. That's just like my preference. She can talk about whatever she wants, obviously. Like I said, it was enjoyable enough. Nothing groundbreaking for me, so it was fine. Be Ready When the Luck Happens by Ina Garten. This is similar to the third Gilmore Girl in the sense that it's about like an older woman in entertainment, although she's, you know, a chef, cooking person, cookbook specialist, I guess, TV show chef. I don't know. She's older, has that history to her, and she just tells us about how she got to the point where we know her name. I also really enjoyed this. This has solidified the fact that I feel like I need my memoirs to be written by people who are at least 75 years old. By that point, I feel like you have lived enough life and also stopped giving an F enough to like tell us the real tea, I think. I think the thing I really value in memoirs is honesty, and I feel like Ina Garten was pretty honest here, especially in regards to her marriage to Jeffrey. She goes through what it was like in her childhood. She talks a little bit about her parents being emotionally neglectful, potentially emotionally abusive, which was hard to hear about, but something I appreciate that she wrote about. I never watched Barefoot Contessa. If you also never watched that, that is what Ina Garten is best known for. That is a TV show that was on the Food Network, and also she has a ton of Barefoot Contessa cookbooks, and that's like her moniker for all her cooking stuff, basically. And that started, which we learn about in the book, with her buying a specialty food store called Barefoot Contessa and running that. I was saying that she talks a lot about her marriage with Jeffrey. Oh, because apparently on the show she mentions Jeffrey a lot. So I think that might be of interest if you care about Barefoot Contessa / Ina Garten. But she especially talked about her marriage being of its time, where she takes on like the homemaker caretaker role and her husband does the finances, he brings home the bacon, all that stuff. And she talks about how they had to like work to change that in their marriage, which I thought was pretty interesting and not something you really hear about, especially from someone who's her age. So I really appreciated that part of the book. And then the cooking stuff, I also just enjoyed that. This book definitely made me want to buy my own specialty food store on Long Island. And, you know, I'm like ready to become a small business owner like that. She made it sound fun. I enjoyed reading about it. I have seen like a few reviews where people are talking about how privileged Ina Garten is. And honestly, she was. Like, I'm not going to defend her on that. I don't care. Privileged enough that she saw an ad in the paper for this random food store in a city / town that she didn't live in a different state. And her and her husband were able to swing it so she could work there. And this was like a fun business for her, basically, since at the time her husband was doing all the finances and everything. And he's like, oh, like this is her fun thing. So yeah, that's not something people who aren't privileged can do. Do I think Ina downplays it? I think a little bit. Like, she just doesn't mention it. So that could rub people the wrong way. For me, it didn't bug me because I found her whole story like entertaining or anything, but I can see how that bugged some other people. Overall, I just had a good time reading this. This clip, whatever, is going to be pretty short because I just don't have a ton to say. Like, if you like Ina Garten, you should read it. If you like memoirs from older celebrities, you should read it. If it will bother you to hear about all the things that worked out in her life, don't read it. From Here to the Great Unknown by Lisa Marie Presley and Riley Keough. This is Lisa Marie Presley's memoir published posthumously. Lisa Marie Presley passed away last year or a couple of years ago from a heart attack. And when she passed away, she had started writing her memoirs and she was recording voice notes to work on this process, basically. So her daughter Riley compiled the voice notes that she had, and there are some interjections from Riley to add more context or her perspective or someone else's perspective who Lisa Marie may have been talking about. Again, no connection to Elvis, Lisa Marie Presley, Priscilla Presley. So I didn't really have that going for me with this book. There was nothing wrong with it. It just didn't wow me, I guess. Lisa Marie Presley's life was really weird. Like, she talks about her relationship with her parents a little bit. That part feels unfinished to me. Like, maybe if she had more time, she would have expanded more and like really reflected on her relationship with her parents, because you can see how she revered Elvis and how her mother and Elvis treated her. They weren't the greatest of parents. Priscilla more so, but Elvis was, by her description, neglectful as well. So there's that. Her mom does do something unforgivable, which you can definitely read about. Lisa Marie kind of talks about like forgiving her mom or kind of putting it in the past. She just says that the relationship got better. I would have loved to see more reflection on that, just because of like what had happened between them. And yeah, that's what I feel like was most missing from the book. Like there was a lot of description, but not as much reflection on like what she was going through or thinking at the time. And it's hard to rate the book like that because I feel like some of that is missing because of how it was published. Like it is unfinished. I also was a little bit disappointed with Riley's notes. I was hoping for more. I guess I was hoping for Riley's memoir in the end, or just like I was hoping Riley would have more interjections of her feelings and things, and there were some, but not as much as I would have hoped for, which is, you know, a me problem. It's not the book's fault and it wasn't promised. That was just what I was hoping for, especially towards the end when the book ends with Lisa Marie Presley's death. I was hoping for more of reflection from Riley afterwards, and there wasn't any. She does talk about like finding out and like right before that happens, but there's nothing after, which I just would have liked a little bit of something, I guess. Now that we're done with all the book, it is time to rank them fully and then find out the actual winner of the Goodreads Choice Awards. The Goodreads Choice Awards have been over for a minute now. I managed to keep myself unspoiled for over a week. I'll tell you my personal winner, who I think will be the winner, and then we'll find out the winner together, or you already know, but we'll find out together in this video. So I think my final ranking, so there's one book I didn't read at all, Oath and Honor, on the finalist list. I didn't want to read it. Number 1 and 2, honestly, I feel like Bits and Pieces and Knife really close for me. I really like Bits and Pieces, but I do feel kind of held back because Knife is about such a serious subject, but I think Bits and Pieces might be number 1. So I'm gonna say my winner is Bits and Pieces. I'm gonna lock in my final answer. What I think is gonna win is, I'm just gonna do straight number, Sociopath, a memoir. I will screen record, that will be next to me. We will find out who won. View result. Memoir. Oh! The third Gilmore Girl won. That was surprising to me. You know, I really underestimated how popular Gilmore Girls was. It got like nearly triple the number of votes Sociopath got, but I would have been right since it is second. I really underestimated Gilmore Girls because even though this didn't have, hold on, did I write this down wrong? I guess it just got way more ratings. Like a lot of people read it after it was nominated. I never updated my ratings because it has way more ratings than I wrote down in November. Bits and Pieces, it looks like, yeah, didn't do great. It's okay. It's 10th, I believe. I'm glad I didn't go with Oath and Honor because I would have been wrong. And I'm also glad I didn't read it since it didn't win. Yeah, I'm happy with the third Gilmore Girl. I enjoyed it a lot. I think, sure, why not? Memoir is hard because it's like, most of these are celebrities, so it's not like this is gonna be life-changing for Kelly Bishop. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. Nothing negative to say. Like I'm not ready to fight the voting block. Thanks so much for watching. In the comments down below, let me know if I should do this video again next year, if I should do a different category. If you have an idea for a category, please let me know. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.